Hey everyone, Dr. Frunke here with a really awesome knife consult for you on the Purvis Blades Progeny. This knife is really exciting to me because this knife is an adaptation of Adam's own custom knife design. Many of you know Adam Purvis as a knife modifier and a clip maker in our community. Some people may not realize that he is also a custom knife maker. Before he was doing a lot of the clip work that we know him for now, he made a handful of his own custom knife designs. These original knives, called the Ish, were designed initially by Elijah Isham, otherwise known for his very, very unique and characteristic designs, like this WE Knives Arrakis. So many years ago, the two guys were already friends, and they teamed up in the sense that Elijah had a rough design, and Adam went ahead and made a knife called the Ish, and it looked very, very much like this. Adam has already had a production knife called the Primordial. I'll leave a link down below that you can go and check that knife out. But that knife was a knife unto itself. This knife, the Progeny, is the child or the offspring of that custom knife, and so I think that it's a fitting name that this one is called the Progeny. And I'm excited for Adam that this one has come to the market. And initially, I honestly was a little bit not that excited about the knife because it looks rather plain. It does not really jump out at you that this is going to be, anything special. But once you get this knife in hand, it all makes perfect sense, and I'll try to explain that. My impression of this knife completely changed as soon as I got it in hand and I carried it. And so we'll get into the details here, but let's go ahead and get some vital signs on the Adam Purvis Progeny, okay? Well, up front right here, you're looking at about a 3.4-inch blade. It's not quite 3.5 inches of M390 steel. Overall length, you're looking at about 7 3/4 inches right there. Back to the pivot, you're looking at almost 3 3/4 inches right there. The handle length is coming in at about 4 1/4 inches with just under 4 inches, about 3.9 inches of effective grip area right there. The handle thickness is coming in here at 0.5 inches on the dot, and the blade thickness is coming in at 150 thousandths as well. Let's go ahead and bring out the scale so we can get a weight on this guy. It has a titanium construction with a full-length backspacer without internal milling, but it still comes in at 3.6 ounces. So it's very close to that 1-to-1 ratio with a little bit of extra weight, but at 3.6 ounces, there's not a lot to complain about with the weight. The under 4 ounces makes this very carryable, even though it is a full through metal construction. And actually, I take back the fact that I said it was not internally milled. It is significantly internally milled, and we're going to get into that. I don't know what I'm talking about. I've taken this knife apart. I don't know why I said that. Anyways, let's break this knife down anatomically and see what we're looking at. Up front is this blade of M390 steel. This is something that took a while to grow on me. The blade shape is rather simple, but it is highly, highly useful. This is similar in many ways to a sheep's foot style blade, but it is you could call it a modified sheep's foot where there's sort of a ramped area. Call it what you will. It is a highly effective blade shape where the blade tip curves downward, allowing for very easy draw cuts. The blade is actually situated below the line of the handle, allowing for excellent food prep abilities because you can get a majority of the blade down onto a table. The belly allows you to rock it back and forth in terms of those kinds of cuts. And the thing that I have really enjoyed is the way that this blade is ground. It is ground very thinly. You can see here that the material stock is taken down to a very thin amount of material and then given a very sharp edge. This thing came unbelievably sharp. It definitely bit me more than once. It is a very sharp knife. And everything that I threw at it, cardboard, food, rope, cloth, everything that it wanted to cut, it cut extremely easily. Now, the 150 thousandths blade stock means that it's not going to be the world's greatest slicer through all things, but it is happy to accomplish all of your EDC tasks. This nice tip is kept safely away from any skin edges. This is something that I look for. For those of you who are involved in EMS or first response or the healthcare profession, it's nice to have a blade that is safe to use against skin. You can lay that spine on the edge of a skin and get underneath clothes, get underneath bracelets or wristbands or anything else and get those removed very easily. So I know that seems like a silly consideration to some, but it is something that I think about because I use my blades in that way. The sharpening choil is done in such a way, it could have been a little bit deeper perhaps for a little bit more longevity right there, but I do think that it's certainly present. It's not really there for a finger choil. It's a bit of a larger choil right there. There is a nice swedge going on at the top. I really like the way the blade is finished. It's got a stone wash on the primary bevels and then a nice horizontal satin on the flats. It's a very attractive blade and it hides wear very well. You would never know that this knife was used ever. It cleans off very easily. And an M390, I'm not worried about it corroding in any way. Moving back to the pivot, this thing is running on ceramic ball bearings housed in phosphor bronze washers. As we've come to expect from many of the Chinese-made frame lock flippers, it has excellent action. These guys have figured out how to get a knife to have good detent and a nice, smooth, and fast action. This is not going to be the fastest knife in your collection, but it has a perfect amount of resistance and really, really feels great on the closure and the opening. I will comment that the detent is maybe a little bit on the light side, and so it is possible to sort of halfway fire the blade. I do, maybe some others have said that their detents are quite strong. There may be some variability in that, so be aware of it. If you're not satisfied with your detent, perhaps you can consider finding a replacement. This one is, I would say, medium detent. It's not light, but it's not heavy. I would have preferred a slightly crispier detent, but it's not bad by any means. I'm not going to fail to deploy this knife effectively. Another thing is that the flipper is sort of the upturned type right here. Sometimes these are uncomfortable. This one is not uncomfortable. It really allows for an effective push button or light switch type of motion. Really, it forces you into an almost hybrid type motion, which is the best of both worlds, and it gives you an effective flip. Something that you'll notice that Adam paid attention to was the landing zone for your finger. Notice that it sits significantly behind the flipper tab because your finger lands there, and it is actually quite comfortable on the fingers. It takes that edge away, and it makes for an enjoyable flipping experience. That's something that only an EDC expert is going to be paying attention to, and obviously Adam cares about these kinds of details. The lock bar here has a steel lock bar insert. Here you can see that it's fixed from the outside. It has very nice lockup and a radius lock face. This is going to be highly durable and is unlikely to fail on you unless you are in extreme conditions. Obviously, don't test this with spine whacking. I gave it a few light taps and it seemed very solid. I have no qualms about the security of this lock. One thing that I might like to see in the future iterations of this knife is a slight protrusion of the lock bar. I feel like this area is cut away so deeply that you could improve this a little bit by adding a bit more lip. I find it a little bit difficult to disengage the lock bar because there is a good amount of lock bar tension, and this ends up being very smooth. It is not, it is flush with the other side, and so you're essentially just sticking your thumb in there and kind of praying. You may have seen once or twice in the video I've kind of missed when I'm trying to open it. It happens from time to time when I'm moving too quickly. Just something else. To be easier to disengage, it might be nice to have a little lip on the lock bar side for that. I will say that the pivot hardware is quite nice. This is really tastefully done custom pivot hardware. I really like that. It's got a Torx construction, very easy to take this knife apart. You can see here on the handles, this is full-length, high-grade titanium, done in a stonewash finish to match the primary bevels of the blade. I really like the matching finish on this silver edition. They offer some with various colors. I think there's a bronze. I think there was a blue one as well. This one has a blue backspacer and a blue pocket clip right here, which I like the pop of color. I might have liked to see this in a slightly darker blue, but I'll be okay with that. I apologize, they're blowing some leaves outside right now while I'm trying to make this video. Sorry about that. But what I do appreciate is that the handle is one of the most ergonomic things I've ever experienced. Honestly, this handle looked a bit awkward. In combination with this blade, this knife has a very sort of flowing, organic, it almost looks like a banana. I don't really know how to explain it, but it just didn't strike me as a beautiful thing. But as soon as I put it in my hand, I said, oh, that makes perfect sense. The blade sits below the handle, as I mentioned before, and your fingers get a full 4-finger grip, and then the way that your thumb rests on it, you feel that you have a very positive grip on this knife, and then you feel like the blade is situated exactly where you would want it to perform an aggressive cutting task. And then add to that, if you wrap your fingers around it in this way and then put your finger on top, I've mentioned this numerous times as an EDC sort of cutting motion, this is an excellent grip. It really just allows for the blade to be lined up perfectly for your hand. It's almost as if Adam studied the biomechanics of the hand in order to come up with this design. I really, really like that. And that's what really took me by surprise, is that the ergonomics set this knife apart from many, many other knives on the market right now. Add to that the fact that it's $190 with M390 ceramic bearings, titanium handles, and various colorways, and then the options for customizing and getting some of Adam's Timascus clips that he has made. Honestly, this knife is a really great value. There are not many knives for under $200 that you get all of these features, and it's from a guy in the community that is a stand-up guy. I have met Adam personally. I've had dinner with him. He is just a very nice human being, and I really enjoy supporting good people in our community, and he certainly deserves our attention. So I'm really glad that Adam was able to bring his custom-ish into reality as a production knife, as the Progeny here. If you guys want to take a look, I think there are some available still at the Blade HQ website. Adam may be doing some more runs of these in the future. You can check out his website. I will leave a link to all of these places down below in the comments. Why don't you guys leave some comments down below yourselves? Let me know what you think of the Progeny. Go ahead and click like and subscribe to my YouTube channel here. Go over to Instagram and follow me as Dr. Frunky and Adam as @Purvis thank you guys for watching. And as always, take care. One more thing I haven't said. Thank you to my patrons. This video has been made possible by my very generous Patreon patrons. This is the second knife that I was able to purchase using their funds. Maybe this was the third knife, but I have a Patreon set up, and now it's allowing me to buy nicer and nicer knives so that I can bring this to you guys. And then what I do with the knives is I give them back to the people who are paying me. This knife is not going to stay in my collection. This is going to be given to one of my patrons, and they're just going to receive it. And that is the fun of what we're doing over there. So head over to that at www.patreon.com/drfrunky to learn a little bit more. And thank you again to all of my patrons for making this possible. And thank you to everyone who watches my videos and supports me in any way. Thank you guys very much, and take care.